He's Tony. I'm Mike. This is week 13 of the Action Bowl.
It just gets funnier every week. So week 13 of the Action Bowl, the first week of our playoffs, sees Cynthia Rothrock facing off against Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mike is going to draw for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I am going to draw for my girl because while I know that this is going to be a desperate fight, if nothing else, I still feel like Cynthia does occasionally have the goods. So
She does. But we'll have to see what we pull out here for old Arnie. Let's see what we got here. And for Arnold, we have Predator. So this is a great pull for Schwarzenegger. This is a terrible pull for Cynthia Rothrock. Because let's face it, Predator is a damn near flawless science fiction horror film.
I'm going to say I feel like I just heard somebody yell all aboard at the freight train station because this one's going to start to run away here really soon. But let's see what my girl is firing back with. Feel this one. China O'Brien. Now, I will say this. I have not seen China O'Brien, and I know that's kind of sacrilegious to a lot of our Cynthia Rothrock fans that are out there, but this is like her big star-making film series. She actually wound up doing 3 different ones. So if she was going to pull anything, this is about as good as it's going to get. I don't want to say that this might be a foregone conclusion. I'm rooting for you, Cynthia. I really, really am. But I think that this might be our final draw for Miss Rothrock at this point. So stay tuned for our commentary and our scoring. That's coming up next. Week 13 of the Action Bowl saw Cynthia Rothrock, my girl, go up against the man Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who do you want to talk about first?
You know what? Let's do Rothrock first.
Let's do Rothrock first. So, Cynthia drew China O'Brien. I had never seen this film prior to this.
I've never seen nor heard of it.
And this is a film that has a little bit of a pedigree. And what I mean by pedigree is this was written and directed by the same man who wrote and directed Enter the Dragon, which was Bruce Lee's introduction to American audiences over here. Cynthia had been doing Hong Kong cinema for a little bit, and this was her introduction to an American audience. I'm just going to say that this was not as successful a launching pad for her. I'm going to say I was rooting for Cynthia. I really, really was. She has been my horse for the whole game so far.
I was too, especially with her last outing in No Retreat, No Surrender 2.
Yeah.
Such a great film. And I was like hoping for hope that she could, do it again. Because, Predator is a huge mountain to climb to begin with.
Yes, yes it is.
And poor Cynthia, I just don't think she even got out of the gate in this one too terribly much. She herself was fine, and it was, it was schlocky, but it wasn't fun schlocky.
No,
No Retreat, No Surrender was. It took itself a little too seriously to be fun.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's big town cop. She's in LA. She shoots a kid and who was, actually part of a gang. They were all there to assault her, and she was doing it to save someone else's life. And she winds up going back home. She quits the force, goes back home. Her dad is a sheriff of a small town that's been taken over by corruption. And all this sounds fine on paper. Conceptually, story-wise, it's not bad. But
no,
it's so heavy-handed.
You've heard the horror stories, the widespread corruption. We all know about the rich and powerful men who have come here and bought many of our elected officials.
And it's it's not fun. And there's
No.
some great characters in this. There's the guy who was a special forces guy who has come back to town, and he's now there as a teacher, and he wants to be an example.
Matt!
It is you. It's been 6 years, right?
Uh-huh. I'm back for a while.
Good. You staying with your father?
Uh-huh.
I'll call you tonight.
And then
Isn't he also the buddy cop from Tiger Claws?
I think he is.
I
yes.
think he is. I think it's the same dude.
And I'm going to say this. You have the one-handed kid. I love his character. His character, Dakota, is absolutely fucking stellar in this film. He shows up with one hand playing asteroids. I have no idea how he's playing asteroids. I guess he's using that little metal pip on the end of his club hand to hit the button. but he winds up assisting Cynthia in her first bar fight since she's come back home, because that's kind of an inauguration in small town.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, at the Beaver Inn, it's like a fight club. If it's your first night Beaver Inn, you gotta fight.
and then it wants to be smarter than it is, and it's not a terribly smart plot. And then on top of it all, it's like Cynthia's doing everything she can with the material that she's been given. It's very obvious this is an early outing for her from an acting standpoint on that one, but it just doesn't land. It just, at the end of the day, while the fight scenes are great, and there are some spectacular fight scenes in this, and there's some spectacular stunt work throughout this as well, it just doesn't ever gel into anything.
It's just saddled with such a heavy, sappy frickin' plot. Like I said, it's just no fun. This is no fun.
This is prime for a remake. This is one of those movies that literally, you could take this idea and you could turn it into something that was infinitely more entertaining, because at the end of the day, really, this is an awful lot like Roadhouse.
What the hell is this?
I hate Roadhouse.
So
you're not selling me at all this idea.
I'm just saying, it's a small town that's been overtaken by corruption and money powers, and they're kind of strong-arming the people in town to get their way. All that tracks. All of it can and does and has worked for other action stars. It's just in this particular one, even though there's like her dad gets killed in the line of duty, and then his deputy gets killed, and then the corrupt cop actually winds up taking over, all that could work. It just doesn't work here. So I gotta ask you one question though. The guy that became the temporary sheriff, where do I know him from? Because I recognize that face.
I do not. I have no idea who that guy is.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna throw it up here when I'm actually doing the edit on this one. Because I've got to know. I know I've seen that face before because it's a little too distinct.
I give 0 Fs about who that guy is. I give 0 Fs about this movie, and I wanted to. And actually, I was really generous with my scores on this one.
I'm all ears. I want to hear your scores on this.
Okay, that's the next round. I was super generous with the plot. I gave it a 6 because the story is actually pretty decent. It's pretty competent.
Yeah.
Style of 5. I mean, it doesn't do anything wrong, but it doesn't do anything great. It's just a 5. And I was super generous with the fun factor. I gave it a 6.
You were more generous than I was. So your total score is a 17.
17, yeah.
On this.
I was. Again, she has such a great outing. I really wanted her to do better, but you can only pad them scores so much.
If you ever doubted how impartial I'm trying to be on this, for the plot, I gave this a 5. It is a perfectly serviceable plot. It could have been better, but it was hampered by such a dull, uneven script. So 5 on that. For the style, I gave it a 5. It has moments where it really shines. Some of the action sequences, like I said, are really great, but then it has these like long, boring stretches that you kind of suffer through to actually get to the next really fun part of the movie. And for the fun, I gave it a 3.
It's appropriate.
It's
way more appropriate than my score.
I wanted to love this. I was like, oh, it's a Cynthia Rothrock movie, and I haven't seen it. And I got to the end of it, and it's just kind of like, yeah, that was a movie. You know, she gave it her all. I understand why she continued doing film after this, and I understand why she's still actually acting now.
Yeah.
But this shows potential, but it does not showcase her strengths, and I wish that she had done more films. Like,
See, I wish she did, like No Retreat,
No Retreat, No Surrender too,
because
yeah.
she does much better as the plucky sidekick, you know, or even if she's more of a plucky character overall. She's much more fun because she's even much more fun in is it Fast Getaway?
Yeah, Fast Getaway.
Fast Getaway. That's your wheelhouse, Cynthia. You need to do more stuff like that. Leave the serious stuff to somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't work. I have more fun with your
schlocky.
yeah,
they're fun.
More comedy. Yeah, your fun stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, my total score on this was a 13. So coming up next is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Stay tuned. So Arnold Schwarzenegger steps up to the plate, takes a big swing, and he lands Predator.
Shit!
And let's be honest, this film kind of kicked off a whole subgenre of action films and has inspired so many ripoffs and so many bad sequels.
Oh, and here's the sad. This is literally lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Showtime, kid.
You can. I don't care how hard you try, who you cast, who you have directing. If you have the same exact team over again, I don't think you could replicate this over again. It just, for some reason, it just works. It's so many genres in one. The first act is just a straight up military action.
Mm-hmm.
The second half becomes kind of more of a slasher, and then the third act is like a cat and mouse thriller.
Yes,
It
yes.
is so many things in one package, and it flawlessly executes
Yes.
every single one of
Yes.
them. How? I don't fucking know.
I-
And every time I watch this movie, I see something fucking new in it.
I will tell you how. John McTiernan is a great director.
Yes, he is. No doubt about that.
And here's how I can tell you that he's a great director. There are so many films that are shot in the woods, and they're boring. They're flat. They're ugly. It looks like they were, no matter where they go or what they do, they look like they were shot in somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
This movie actually is so skillfully done that the jungle looks imposing. It
Yes.
looks scary. It looks deep. It looks dark. It looks rich. It looks interesting. It's effectively done because even though you have a bunch of guys dressed in green standing in a background of a bunch of shit that's green, it holds up. And you brought up that this movie changes its course 3 times, and you're absolutely right, but it also changes its palette 3 times. Because at the very beginning, when they're on the mission, everything is green. And then when they get to the sequences where they're kind of playing a bit of the slasher part of it, it's a bit more yellowish in its tone. And when you get to the end, it's all very blue.
Oh, I never really caught on to that.
From the moment he goes over the waterfall, everything has a blue cast to it, and it does that all the way up to the end where you have the big flash of white. So I was paying attention to that, and it's one of those films that I've seen it so many times, you do get to catch all the little nuances and stuff that you weren't paying attention to before.
And there's a lot. And every time, and I've seen this movie, I don't know how many times, but every time I pick up something a little new, another little detail.
Yeah, and this is a movie that actually is so well directed, it makes Arnold Schwarzenegger look like he can act.
Good old days. Yeah, like the good old days. Then how come you passed on Libya, huh?
Oh, that wasn't my style.
You got no style, that you know that. Come on. Why'd you pass?
We're a rescue team, not assassins.
Yes. Yes.
And that's tough.
That is tough. But again, it's just flawlessly done in every aspect of it. And going back to the cinematography, whoever is a director of photography was amazing because some of the shots that he gets of people walking up when they're doing their gunfire
Yes.
are like, posters.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
and every character has a spot where it's like you could put down like a trading card.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
There's one. Go ahead.
Not only that, but they spent the time with the script to actually, you don't know who's living and who's dying, and they fleshed out every character, and they do it from the first frame of the film when the helicopter lands. how distinctly different every one of them is from each other. And while they get together and they work flawlessly as a team, they are all their own separate person. And that's the kind of characterization that a lot of directors would skimp on because, they're just going to die anyway, so we don't need to bother with that. And that's why this film has stood the test of time. I saw this film in the theater when I was in high school. Way, way, way back in the day, and I have watched this, and I have had it on VHS, I've had it on DVD, I have it on Blu-ray. I don't have it on 4K yet, but I'm sure that it's coming down the pipe. But you know what I won't do? I won't buy Predator. I probably get Predator, Predator 2, and then Predators, the Robert Rodriguez film. Other than that, I'm good. All the rest of them really aren't bringing anything new to the table.
No.
So.
No, not at all. And none of them can genre mash.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's like every one that after this is pretty much just a sci-fi kind of thing more than anything.
Pretty much.
So I mean, it's tough. This movie's so good. Even the homoerotic parts are perfectly executed too. Like when Billy cuts the vine and sucks the water out of it. I mean, come on. And then Blaine and Mac, I still swear to this day that they're more than they're friends with benefits.
¿Qué pasa, amigo? Pero te está home.
You lose it here, you're in a world of hurt.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. There is definitely a depth to that relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to leave it right there. So, but this is the Action Bowl. And seeing as we actually have what is probably our first great action film, I am all ears to hear your scores.
Oh, well, shit. Plot is an 8. I mean, there's like, a couple little singers that don't quite land, really, that should really go over more style. But, I mean, to genre mix like this flawlessly, there's like no holes at all in anything, and everything makes complete sense. This really should be like a 9 or a 10, but I gave an 8. Style is a 10 all day long. Fight me on it. I dare you. It's flawless in execution and its style and its presentation and everything else. Fun is a freaking 9. I mean, it's a 27. I mean, it's as close as you can get to a perfect movie.
And I'm just going to say, I mirror that sentiment. As far as my scores go for the plot, I gave it an 8. And the only reason for that is because alien invasion films had been done. This actually shares a lot of threads with The Thing, which had come out 6 years earlier to it, and that you have an elite team of people. In that case, it was Arctic, scientists.
Or not elite people, they're freaking scientists.
Yeah, elite.
And that's...
No, I'm not saying that they're like professional soldiers. I'm saying that they're elite in their particular field, that they're smart, and where The Thing is much more of a duel of intellect, this is a physical duel of the alien against the actual team that we're following. But for style, 9. Absolutely all day long. This film is so good. It's so well put together. It's so well edited. It is so, just everything about this film just screams greatness. There's no weak links. And even though the sequels to Predator have really lacked, this film still holds up amazingly well today. It is still, I was watching this last night, and at no point did this film ever feel dated. If you didn't know who any of these actors are, if you didn't know that this film was 30 years old, you would never assume that this was a film that was made back in the 80s.
No, it's very, very timeless.
And for the fun, I gave it a 9 all day long.
Yeah.
This film f***ing rocks.
Yes.
There is no other way to put it. So you gave it a 27, I gave it a 26. We are right in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
So our scoring and who's moving on to the main event, coming up next. Stay tuned. So week 13 of the Action Bowl did not turn out to be so lucky for Cynthia Rothrock. For the scoring on this one, Rothrock's China O'Brien, you scored it a 17, I scored it a 13, so that gives us an average score of 15. And for Arnold Schwarzenegger's Predator, you scored it a 27, I scored it a 26, so that gives us an average score of 26.5. So as much as I hate to do this, I'm gonna miss you, honey. Are we rolling over here? I only want to do this once. Goodbye, my love. So Arnold moves on to the main event. My girl has fallen into the Action Bowl of shame. And 2 weeks from now, the main event. Next week, Mel Gibson against Jean-Claude Van Damme. We will see you soon.